Speaking of another interesting player, had a great game yesterday. He's linked today to Arsenal and to Chelsea. That is Nico Williams, a player that I haven't watched many times. And social media, the whole time I've seen his name mentioned in the last year, it is divided like 50-50. People either rate him highly or they think he's just a hipster's favorite, an overrated showboater. I've seen the combination of the two things. He was sensational last night, though, I thought. Other than the miss that he had, he should have scored, but his general play was excellent. What do you make of him as a player, and how good do you think he would do at Arsenal or Chelsea?
He's something that most our teams don't have, which is just a pure winger that can play on both sides. I hear the criticism that he gets. When you compare him next to his companion, as an example, Yamal, is he on Lamine Yamal's level? No. Is he ever going to be on Lamine Yamal's level? Probably not, because Lamine Yamal is absolutely generational. But you don't need about 3-4 Yamals in your team. You can only afford to have one. Sometimes you need that direct winger. We've seen Pep. I'm so sorry. This is going to offend a lot of people. If Pep is recruiting the likes of Doku, who a lot of people think he's shit, and a lot of people think, and by the way, I have a lot of criticism for him as well. I don't rate him that high. But if Pep identifies that even his team that keeps the ball more than anyone else needs a type of winger who's direct, who can play on both sides, who likes to take on his man, then I'm sorry that I will agree with one of the best, if not the best tactician of all time. Every team needs a Nico Williams. Nico Williams actually has a little bit more on the legs of Jeremy Doku because he's two-footed. He's ambidextrous. He can play with his left. He can play with his right. He can play on the right side. He can play on the left side. And he likes to be right direct. He likes to take on. He's pretty successful at it as well. You know, he's not gonna give you a 8 or 9 out of 10 every game. He will drop some stinkers. But when you look at United as an example, who else is linked with him, Terry? United, Arsenal, and who?
Mm-hmm.
You said who? There's one more team.
Arsenal, Chelsea are linked to him. I think they were linked to him last year as well.
Okay, so Chelsea. Let's talk about Arsenal as an example because Chelsea just linked with everyone, and I couldn't be bothered right now. Arsenal as an example. What is the main thing they've been complaining about for a couple years? Saka has no backup. Now, Nico Williams would start for Arsenal. He would go to that left-hand side instead of Martinelli. But what happens when you need Saka to sit a game? When Saka's not playing well, he deserves to be benched. You easily put him on the right, and then you play either a Trossard or a Martinelli, whoever's available on the left. We don't have a lot of these direct wingers. That's why I said United and I said Arsenal. They need these type of wingers. Yes, he's not everyone's cup of tea. Yes, he could be a little bit wasteful sometimes, but he's also someone who has a very cheap release clause. I believe he's only at 40-50 million, if I'm correct, Terry.
Yeah, it's quite low. It's quite low.
It's a low one, and he's only going to get better from here. If anything, they want him in Barcelona. They probably just don't have the money because they're trying to partner him with the Yamal on the right side, and these are the wingers. So every Premier League team that actually needs a winger, bar City, I would say maybe, they should be all over this signing. Even Liverpool, if they lose Diaz, they should be all over this signing because this kid, how old is he? 20? He can only get better from here. He already has the skill set to improve on, which is something I'm very critical of. When people talk about age, a lot of times I don't entertain it because if you don't have the skill set to build on, I don't care about your age. I just think you're shit anyways. But the kid is not shit. He can only get smarter as a player. His skill set is there. I already named someone. His ball striking is decent. He likes to take on his man. He can play with 2 feet. I love him at United next season. I am desperate for a type of a winger like him into my team next season. So everyone should be all over this signing.
Yeah, a lot of people, again, as I say, I haven't watched too much of him, so I don't have a sort of deep-rooted opinion. I mean, what I have seen, though, looks pretty decent. He plays... Like I watched him last night and thought, great. What people have said to me about him, though, is that what you saw last night kind of only happens 1 in every 4 games. Now, I can't dispute it because I don't watch enough games. I'm just sort of taking people's word for it. And I suppose that is a little bit of a concern. But again, at the price that you're talking, you think about how much Mykhailo Mudryk costs. You think about how much Chelsea maybe are about to go and spend on Duran, saying around 40 odd million. Surely, when you look at Nico Williams, it's far less of a risk. He looks better than him.
What is this Duran link, anyways? Can someone tell me what is this? And oh my god, Don. I heard Don talking about. I'm not really surprised. I said that Don would literally sell salt to snail. That's how much this guy just wants to sit there and defend everything that Chelsea does. He'll always convince you that's the right move. Don, I hope you're watching this and you listen to this.
Or Don rating the move.
Yeah, he said it's the right move for Chelsea. He said I did. Of course you did, Don. I when Don did it, it says I did research on it and I like the move. I envisioned Don going on one or two comps, sitting there for 30 minutes thinking about it, and he's like, yeah, it's the right move. But at some point in the season, something bad is going to happen, and he's going to be like, "Oh, I criticize the players." You do not need a Duran. I don't know much about Duran. I'm not even going to sit here and waffle about it. But I've seen glimpses of what he's done last season for Villa. He looks like a decent player. But who realistically sat here in the last couple years, heard so much talk about scouts rating Duran? Oh, he's the next this, he's the next that. Oh, everyone is over the sign. Where did this even come from? Like we're talking about them needing a striker to replace Nico Williams, not Nico Williams. What's his name? Nico Jackson. Because Nico Jackson is a decent attacker, but he's not really that out and out nine who's going to bag all these goals for him. So they need more of a goal scorer. And then you go for Duran. Where did this come from? Like there was talks about Openda. There was talks about like so many other strikers out there. The striker market this season is more saturated than last season, which is why last season only like the notable moves were who Kane to Bayern, and we had to spend 70 million on a second striker in Atalanta because there was no strikers out there. This season, there's so many strikers out there. People would rather go for a Duran than all these other names. I don't get it. Where did this even come from? I did not hear one Chelsea fan big up Duran all of last season. What, he scored a brace towards the end of the season? I forgot who it played when he scored a
Liverpool.
brace. Liverpool, there you go.
And one of them was an absolute fluke of a goal.
Wasn't it a deflection or something? I forgot.
Yeah, I think the ball got like cleared.
Or hit him.
Went up. Yeah, ball got cleared. His foot went up in the air and went in or something like that. Yeah,
I really don't know what these.
They're also linked with the young striker at Ati, and I think it's pronounced Omoroderen.
Samu Omoroderen.
Yeah, and I just quote what Fabrizio Romano has said today. He says that Chelsea is still working on Samu. It's not over yet. Contact is still taking place. So they're pushing hard for him. They're pushing for Duran, and at the same time, Chelsea, they've done a deal to sell Ian Maatsen.
I mean, it looks like a lot of backward moves. I'm not gonna lie. Selling Maatsen, I understand. I think I was hearing some Chelsea fans talking about it. He wanted to move anyways. They were gonna get a good fee for him. I don't think it's the right move because he's a very good player. But I mean, if you're gonna get good money for him, it is what it is. You know, if his mind was set on leaving, at least you're getting good money for it. So I'm not gonna be so against it. But these striker links, I'm not gonna lie, is just a joke. The biggest issue they had last season is that they weren't scoring goals. We were talking about their conversion rate. We're talking about how many chances they created and they weren't scoring. There's so many games that they had where like if they had a striker, they would have won today. So it wasn't on Poch, it wasn't on the players, blah blah blah. It was just on the strikers. And then you're linked with Duran and that Samu guy. I'd never heard of this guy until yesterday. I never knew who it was. I think he plays for Alaves or something. I swear, I would be lying to you if I said I know anything about him. What are these links? I thought this is the year they're moving into more experienced players. I thought this is the year that they're moving into, you know what, no more 24 and younger players. We already have a core of young players that gained a season or two of experience. Let's start building around them. Let's start adding them a little bit of experience in the back line and in the midfield and in the front line. They're going by again by all these just young players again, and I don't understand it. I don't understand it. It's if they signed any of these unknown strikers, I think they're gonna have another shit season again. I'm gonna be very honest with you, and I don't know where this takes Chelsea. I wish this was a show where we had some Chelsea fans like the top six or whatever, so I can get their opinions. But I'm not gonna lie, I would not be inspired by these moves. None of these moves would move me as a Chelsea fan, and I don't think once again I'm sitting here and I'm questioning. Okay, what is the plan? What is the recruitment strategy that they're using at that club? Are they still just going for young players as they did the last 3 years? And it looks like it. It doesn't look like they're moving like a serious club right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one. I mean, I was looking at some of the stats earlier. Like Duran has the best conversion rate of all three at 29%, but that was based on just 17 shots over the course of the whole season. So in the whole season, he just had 17 shots and he scored 5 of them. So that puts the conversion rate pretty high in relation to that. But that's only 5 goals. Samu's conversion rate scored 9 goals, yes, in 35 games, but that's off 57 shots. Conversion rate there of 15% as an example. And just in terms of shooting accuracy, so being on target, his shooting accuracy was at 47%. Duran, his shooting accuracy was actually at 41%. And by the way, his conversion rate dropped significantly if you literally just take off that one deflected goal, which he didn't mean to score. Does that make sense? Like, we know about that one because it's not even an outlier. You suddenly start looking at that, and that conversion rate then drops down to 33%, which is the same as Nicholas Jackson's. Nicholas Jackson's shooting accuracy at the very least was 65% of his shots were on target. And I know he missed a lot of big chances, and we're not going to sit here and defend him on that. But I look at Chelsea's business, and I look at Tosin, very good signing. I look at Elise and think, wow, that would be fantastic business. They were linked earlier on this summer to Julian Alvarez. If they bring him in, again, excellent business. But then I look at what they're doing up front, and I kind of get where Don's coming from. Don said this to me the other day, and I'm paraphrasing, but words to the effect of, if Duran gets the chances Nicholas Jackson got, he will bury them.
But what is the proof?
And well, yeah, I mean, maybe he will, but I'm not sure about the movement of Duran. I'm not sure about his durability. And I know you can't always judge this. I got this wrong once when I said, well, why would Real Madrid get rid of Odegaard if he was that good? Turns out he's quite good. But as a general rule, the fact that Villa are willing to let him go, and Unai Emery is like, yep, give us 40 million and it's over, that just feels like a bit of a red flag to me. Because if he was this young talent that's going to be an absolute superstar, why are Villa turning their back on it?
Who? You know who they did that with? Jacob Ramsey. Is it Jacob Ramsey? I think it's Jacob Ramsey. There's 2 of them. I think it's Jacob, the one in the midfield. They wouldn't sell him because they knew they had the kid had the potential, and as they grow, they wanted to keep him in the team. You're absolutely spot on by saying that, because they're going into Champions League next year, so they technically don't need to sell anyone right now. They're actually getting money from going into the Champions League. For a club like Villa, that's big for them. Okay? So if anything, they're trying to add a little bit of Champions League experience. Why would you want to sell a player like him when you're going into a bigger tournament and you actually need the depth? Which is why this signing stinks. It stinks, it reeks, it makes no sense. He does not move the needle for Chelsea. He does not add anything that they don't already have. They already have a lot of young players. They already have a lot of unproven players. They already have a lot of players that they're experimenting with. And I thought they're going to get some needle movers this year. Not necessarily needle movers to the point where they're going to compete for trophies, because I still think they're far off it. But you need a little bit more experience there. And I don't know what this move is. It's a joke.
Blaze with a good challenge here says, the greatest manager in the world let Palmer leave. Yes, he did. The difference, I would say, is this. Palmer is playing in a team that is stacked ahead of him with top-class to world-class players. Where, what do Villa have if Ollie Watkins goes down? Very little. So, and by the way, I still think City shouldn't have done that. I still think that was a mistake. So, that for me is an outlier, though, because you're looking at the squad and the situation, and the player essentially said, well, I don't want to be a squad player, so the club let him go. But do I think if they didn't have Foden, would they have let him go? Not in your Nelly, because he'd have been playing regularly. So I think the situation is different. I get where you're coming from, Blaze, and I understand it. But are you telling me, like, Blaze, you've been a viewer of this channel for a long time, a regular super chatter. I've got a lot of love and respect. Are you honestly excited about the Duran deal? Some of your other business looks really good, and I've praised it. I'm also someone that hasn't gone in on your new manager. I'm going to give it time, see how you play. But John Duran, this young Samu guy from Ati, are you genuinely enthused by these deals, or are you looking at it as, well, this just, or not? I'd love to know, because the Chelsea fan base is divided. I've seen a lot of big Chelsea accounts fuming at this, and then others. What I will say about the young lad from Spain is Atletico are saying absolutely not at any price. Like, he is a star for the future. So there is something in that, because they're trying desperately to keep him. And remember, Man City tried to convince Cole Palmer to stay. So again, this is different in the sense of Villa are just happy for him to go. And
They
that
didn't
would
want
be a
Palmer
red
to
flag.
leave, by the way.
That'd be a red flag for me.
Yeah, they didn't want him to leave. They wanted to sell him to send him out on loan.
Love you, Blaze. Love you, bro. Love that comment. It made me laugh.
They didn't want to sell Palmer. Palmer wanted to leave. They said we'll loan him out. He said no. If I'm not gonna play, I don't want to be loaned out. Just sell me. And City have a policy of not having players basically against their will. Like if they want to leave, they just always let them leave. They've always done that. So it's not really the same comparison. But I hear what he's trying to say with it.
Duran is the Broya replacement.
Yeah, he's probably
But
on the
why
same
wouldn't you
boat as
sign?
well.
Why wouldn't you sign better than Broya?
You need a
Why wouldn't you
starter.
sign? Why wouldn't you sign someone that's better? And
But that's the thing there. Like it's just like these Chelsea fans. It's just I don't get it. I try to be objective when I talk about Chelsea, and not scream punch out and all that stuff that they used to get trolled for. But are you really being serious by starting with Duran is going to be your starter next season? Like how can I take you seriously? Like you guys didn't want that last season. Not a single person would have said that. You were talking about Osimhen. Oh yeah, watch until we get Osimhen. And now you're telling me you want Duran. Like the flip flopping is crazy. They'll just say anything that pleases them, and I don't get it.